Supreme Commander Gorich tapped his claw-like fingers on the table as he observed the hologram projection in the center of the council room. It displayed a fleet of unknown vessels slowly advancing towards the Fandor system. Their configurations did not match any known designs in the Carrion Alliance database. Run it through comparisons again. Perhaps we missed something the first time, Gorich instructed the analyst sitting beside the projector. She nodded and swiftly input a series of commands. After a minute, she shook her head. "No matches, Commander. Whoever they are unlike anything we've seen before," she reported. Gorich let out a low grunt, his mind pondering the implications of this mysterious fleet. Ever since the Alliance had established a colony and mining outpost on Fandor 3, they had enjoyed uncontested control of this region of space. Until now. "Bring up all we have on possible," Gorich began, pausing to consider his next words carefully. "Possible intentions and capabilities of these unknown vessels." The analyst nodded again, her fingers flying across the interface to access the relevant data. As information scrolled across another screen, Gorich's expression remained unreadable, concealing the concern that gnawed at him. This unexpected development could change everything they knew about their strategic position in the sector. Gorich's gaze fixated on the holographic timeline, tracing humanity's journey from its primitive beginnings to its current state in the galaxy. "Continue," Gorich ordered quietly, his tone commanding attention from the council members. The hologram advanced, showing pivotal moments in human history, technological advancements, conflicts, and their eventual expansion beyond their homeworld. "They've come far," remarked one council member, his voice tinged with disbelief. "But are they ready to venture beyond their own system?" Another questioned skeptically. Gorich remained silent, absorbing the implications of this revelation. Humanity, a species still emerging from its early stages of space exploration, now potentially on the brink of encountering the advanced Carrion Alliance. "Prepare a diplomatic mission," Gorich finally spoke, his voice resonating with authority. "We must establish contact with these newcomers, cautiously." The council room buzzed with murmurs of agreement and concern. The prospect of encountering a species as young and ambitious as humanity posed both opportunities and risks for the Carrion Alliance. Gorich's decision would shape the future of their interstellar relations and possibly alter the balance of power in the galaxy. As preparations for the diplomatic mission commenced, Gorich couldn't shake off the lingering unease. Humanity's unexpected arrival in their midst signaled a new chapter, fraught with uncertainties and potential consequences that would unfold in the days to come. Forces had taught him caution and vigilance. As the broadwave communication transmitted across the vast distances of space, Gorich couldn't shake the tension that gripped him. The implications of this encounter with humanity, a species at a critical juncture in its development, weighed heavily on his mind. "We must monitor their response closely," Gorich instructed, his voice measured yet firm. "Prepare for any contingency, but avoid any aggressive maneuvers unless provoked." The council members nodded in silent agreement, their expressions reflecting a mix of curiosity and apprehension. The holographic representation of the mystery fleet continued to hover in the center of the room, a stark reminder of the uncertainty that loomed over their once secure domain. Hours passed with no immediate response from the approaching fleet. The tension in the council room escalated as they waited for any sign of communication from the unknown vessels. Gorich maintained a steady demeanor, masking his growing concern with the practiced calm of a seasoned leader. Suddenly, a faint signal crackled through the communication array, causing everyone to lean forward in anticipation. The analyst adjusted the controls, enhancing the signal clarity. A voice, slightly distorted yet discernible, echoed through the council room. "This is Captain Elias Walker of the United Earth Coalition. We acknowledge your transmission. Please identify yourselves." Gorich exchanged a glance with Drake, his second-in-command, before responding. "This is Supreme Commander Gorich of the Carrion Alliance. We come in peace and seek peaceful communication with your fleet." There was a brief pause before Captain Walker's voice responded. "Supreme Commander Gorich, your message is received. We are eager to establish communication as well. Please advise on protocols for our interaction." Gorich nodded to the analyst, signaling to continue the communication protocols. As the dialogue between the two factions began, Gorich couldn't help but feel a glimmer of hope amidst the uncertainty. The encounter with humanity presented both challenges and opportunities for the Carrion Alliance, and how they navigated this delicate situation would shape their future relations in the galactic community. Supreme Commander Gorich's instincts, honed by years of leading the Carrion Alliance's defense forces, surged with urgency as he assessed the situation unfolding before him. The holographic display in the command center showed the armada of unknown vessels advancing towards Fandor, a stark contrast to the familiar fleets that had traversed these sectors for decades. "Prepare for potential engagement," Gorich commanded, his voice steady yet edged with concern. "Open a broadwave channel to all ships. I need immediate status reports and combat teams readied." His first officer, Commander Sonia, acknowledged swiftly. "Aye, Supreme Commander. All decks report readiness. Scans indicate the enemy fleet comprises several cruisers and 2 Dredden-class vessels. No matches in our records." Gorich furrowed his brow, contemplating the implications. Humanity had made strides in interstellar diplomacy and exploration, establishing peaceful relations with various species. However, these unfamiliar ship configurations suggested a new, potentially hostile encounter. "Maintain heightened sensor sweeps," Gorich continued, his gaze unwavering on the holographic projection. "We need a comprehensive analysis of their capabilities. Prepare a tactical assessment and coordinate closely with ground forces to secure the safety of the colonists." As the Carrion Alliance prepared for possible conflict, Gorich knew they couldn't afford to underestimate these newcomers. Their swift response and coordinated efforts would determine not only the outcome of this immediate threat, but also the future dynamics between their civilizations in the vast expanse of the galaxy. Supreme Commander Gorich's patience was wearing thin as he awaited a response from the unidentified vessels encroaching on Alliance space. The holographic display in front of him flickered with static as the broadwave transmission came through, revealing the heavily accented voice of a speaker. "This is Supreme Commander Gorich of the Carrion Alliance. You have entered Alliance space unauthorized. Power down your weapons and identify yourselves immediately, or we will be forced to open fire." Captain Stephen of the United Earth Fleet exchanged a measured glance with his first officer, Sonia, understanding the gravity of the situation. He spoke with a calm authority, mindful of the tension that hung in the air. "Supreme Commander Gorich, this is Captain Stephen of the United Earth Fleet," Stephen replied, his voice steady despite the urgency. "We received a distress signal from the Fandor colony and have mobilized to render assistance. We have no hostile intentions and urge you to stand down to avoid any misunderstandings." Silence greeted Stephen's words, stretching into a tense pause that seemed to hang in the void between their ships. Gorich's voice eventually broke through the quiet, tinged with skepticism and concern. "You claim to be from Earth, yet your presence here is unprecedented and raises significant security concerns for the Carrion Alliance. Explain your mission and the extent of your capabilities," Gorich demanded, his tone commanding. Stephen took a breath, choosing his words carefully to convey sincerity and transparency. "Our mission is humanitarian. We are here to aid the Fandor colony and establish peaceful communication with the Alliance. As for our capabilities, we are open to verification and cooperation to ensure mutual understanding and security." The tension in the air remained palpable as Gorich deliberated, weighing Stephen's words against the uncertainties of this unexpected encounter. Both leaders knew that their next moves could define the course of future interactions between their civilizations in the vast expanse of the galaxy. Supreme Commander Gorich's command ship hummed with tension as he contemplated the unprecedented situation unfolding before him. The holographic displays flickered with data showing the human fleet's formidable presence in Alliance space. Gorich's seasoned instincts told him that these newcomers were not to be underestimated. "I repeat myself only once more," Gorich's voice echoed through the command center, firm and authoritative. "Stand down your forces, and we can discuss this civilly. However, continue threatening the colonists under our protection, and you will find humanity quite capable of defending ourselves and others. Your move, Commander." Captain Stephen, aboard the lead human cruiser, cut the transmission with a decisive gesture. He leaned back in his chair, sharing a knowing look with Sonia, his first officer. The weight of the moment hung heavily in the air as they braced for what could unfold next. First contact between two species, especially under such tense circumstances, often carried unpredictable outcomes. "This will be an eventful day indeed," Stephen remarked quietly, his voice betraying a mix of anticipation and caution. "Let's hope Commander Gorich values peace over confrontation." Back on the Carrion command ship, Gorich grappled with the implications of their encounter with the human fleet. Despite every analysis indicating the technological parity between their respective forces, the audacity and fearlessness displayed by the humans in aiding a non-native colony puzzled him. It was a trait he hadn't expected from a younger species still navigating their way beyond their homeworld. Gorich glanced at his analysts, who shook their heads in response to his unspoken question about the humans' affiliations or motives. The realization dawned on him that the Carrion Alliance might no longer be the sole power in this sector of the galaxy. Reluctantly, Gorich made a decision and sent a message back to his fleet. It was time to stand down and await further developments, ready to engage in diplomatic dialogue with these unexpected newcomers. Positions, their weapons still active and ready. Captain Stephen exchanged a concerned glance with Sonia, the gravity of the situation sinking in. "They're not backing down," Sonia noted grimly, her voice tinged with urgency as she monitored the unfolding tactical display. Stephen nodded, his mind racing with possibilities. Despite Gorich's assurance to cease the attack on Fandor, the Alliance's actions spoke otherwise. The arrival of their fastest ship to Earth's home system could only mean one thing: a show of force and confirmation of humanity's identity. "Prepare for defensive maneuvers," Stephen commanded, his voice steady despite the mounting tension. "Maintain our position and keep communications open. We need to find a way to de-escalate this situation peacefully." As the Icarus maneuvered into defensive posture, Stephen pondered the implications of their encounter with the Carrion Alliance. They had hoped for a peaceful resolution, but it seemed their initial contact had sparked suspicions and defensive actions instead. The delicate balance between diplomacy and defense now hung in the balance as both sides evaluated the intentions and capabilities of the other. Back on Gorichi's command ship, the holographic image of the human fleet remained frozen in scrutiny. The decision to dispatch a ship to Earth's system was not taken lightly. It was a strategic move to verify the truth behind humanity's claims and assess the potential threat they posed. Gorich's thoughts were divided between caution and curiosity. A species capable of both compassion and formidable strength presented a complex scenario for the Alliance. They could either become a valuable ally or a formidable adversary, depending on how their interaction unfolded from this point forward. "Prepare to establish visual contact," Gorich ordered, his voice firm yet contemplative, "and inform the Senate that we may be facing a significant challenge." As the Alliance ships continued their approach, poised for engagement, the fate of their encounter with humanity hung in the balance, with each decision and action potentially shaping the future of interstellar relations in profound ways. Captain Stephen's eyes scanned the tactical display aboard the Icarus, tension coiling in his gut as he observed the Alliance fleet's response. The eerie silence on all channels spoke volumes, signaling a breakdown in communication that could only escalate into conflict. "Sonia, any response from the commander?" Stephen asked, his voice tight with concern. "No response, Captain. All channels remain silent," Sonia replied, her tone echoing the gravity of their situation. A flicker of movement caught Stephen's eye, and he grimaced as he watched swarms of small craft emerge from the Alliance cruisers and dreadnoughts. The Icarus's crew sprang into action, raising shields and arming all weapons in readiness for the impending engagement. "Those aren't shuttles," Stephen muttered, his jaw clenched with resolve. He issued swift commands through the intercom, ensuring the fleet's readiness. Moments later, the United Earth vessels bristled with activated point defense systems, anticipating the Alliance's next move. The first volley of emerald laser bolts streaked across the void, striking against the Alliance shields with no discernible damage. "Report!" Stephen called out. "Shields holding, no damage reported," IGN confirmed, their voices crisp and focused amidst the chaos. Stephen nodded grimly, acknowledging the efficacy of their experimental deflector shielding against the initial energy weapons assault. But he knew their defenses couldn't withstand a sustained barrage indefinitely. "Launch our fighters! Target those smaller craft first!" Stephen ordered, his voice projecting command and determination. The Icarus hummed with increased activity as human fighters streaked towards the incoming Alliance swarm, weapons armed and systems fully engaged. Stephen's thoughts raced with the weight of their actions, hoping against hope that communication could still prevail over conflict. On the Carrion command ship, Supreme Commander Gorich watched the human fleet's response with a mix of concern and determination. His hopes for peaceful dialogue dwindled with each passing moment of silence and the ominous activation of human weapons. "Open a channel to the lead human cruiser," Gorich commanded, his voice steady but edged with urgency. "Let us attempt to salvage this situation before it escalates further." The fate of their encounter now teetered on a knife's edge, poised between diplomacy and the specter of interstellar conflict. Both leaders knew that their next moves would determine whether peace could prevail or if they were destined for a clash that could reverberate across the galaxy. Captain Stevens' commands echoed through the Icarus's command center as non-critical systems were rerouted to disable rather than destroy the Alliance ships. The urgency of the situation was palpable as the human fleet prepared to engage, hoping to subdue their adversaries without escalating the conflict further. "Launch Delta Flyer assault craft," Stephen ordered, his voice steady despite the chaos unfolding around them. "Engage enemy attack wings. Priority is disablement. Repeat, disablement." Through the forward-viewing ports, squadrons of nimble Delta Flyers spilled from the launch bays, their sleek frames armed with rapid pulse lasers and micro-singularity warheads. They darted into the fray, maneuvering with precision amidst explosions and arcs of energy. Explosions strobed across the void as the Delta Flyers targeted enemy wings, shearing through thrusters and disabling systems. Yet, despite their efforts, the Alliance attack wings pressed on relentlessly, their numbers proving a formidable challenge. Stephen watched with a mix of pride and concern as his pilots executed their maneuvers flawlessly. So far, not a single human craft had been lost, a testament to their training and the effectiveness of their tactics. However, the Alliance capital ships loomed like armored behemoths, their defensive capabilities presenting a daunting obstacle. "Status report!" Stephen called out, his eyes scanning the tactical display. Sonia's voice cut through the din of battle. "Enemy warheads impacting shields, strain on generators increasing. They've analyzed our shield profiles and are modulating weapons for penetration." "Return fire. Focus on disabling their weapons systems," Stephen commanded, his mind racing with strategies to maintain the defensive edge. The Icarus shuddered as another volley of enemy warheads struck home, testing their defenses to the limit. The urgency of the situation weighed heavily as the human fleet fought not just to protect themselves, but to uphold their commitment to resolve the conflict through minimal force. On the Carrion command ship, Gorish observed the escalating battle with growing concern. The resilience and strategic prowess of the human fleet were proving to be formidable obstacles to their offensive. He knew that their next moves would be crucial in determining the outcome of this unforeseen conflict between their civilizations in the vast expanse of space. The Icarus surged forward, its engines roaring with power as it dove headlong into the heart of the skirmish. Captain Stevens' hands gripped the arms of his command chair, adrenaline coursing through him as he focused on the immediate task at hand. "Target mass drivers on the lead cruiser," Stephen ordered, his voice commanding yet composed. "They want a fight? We'll give them one." The helmsman acknowledged with a sharp nod, swiftly maneuvering the Icarus into position. Turbo boosters flared, propelling the ship closer to the Alliance fleet. The pulse plasma cannon mounted on the Icarus's prow unleashed devastating beams of antimatter annihilation, slicing through the heavy armor of the Alliance cruiser as if it were mere tissue paper. "Direct hit on the engine," IGN called out, confirming the effectiveness of their assault. The Alliance cruiser listed to one side, crippled by the precise strike. Before the cruiser could fully react, two of its turrets were sheared away under the relentless barrage of the Icarus's weapons. The Alliance vessel scrambled to bring its defensive screens online, but it was too late to prevent the initial damage. A volley of missiles locked onto the Icarus, hurtling towards them with deadly intent. But Sonia, ever vigilant and quick-witted, acted swiftly. Her fingers danced over the controls, triggering the disruptor beams. In an instant, miniature black holes formed in space, swallowing the incoming warheads before they could breach the Icarus's defenses. "Well done, Sonia," Stephen praised, a grin spreading across his face despite the gravity of the situation. He admired her tactical prowess and the seamless coordination of their crew under pressure. "Our scans indicate their hulls have low neutronium content," Sonia reported, her tone focused and analytical. "A couple more direct hits should finish them off." Stephen nodded, his mind already racing ahead to the next steps. The battle was far from over, but with each successful maneuver and precise strike, they gained ground against the Alliance fleet. The outcome of this confrontation would not only shape their immediate future, but also set the tone for potential interactions between their civilizations in the vast expanse of the galaxy. Captain Stephen's focus sharpened as he assessed the unfolding chaos on the tactical monitor. The Alliance dreadnoughts, previously overlooked in the heat of battle, were now pivoting ominously, their massive main batteries aligning with deadly precision. "Sonia, those cannons, they could vaporize us in one shot," Stephen remarked grimly, his mind racing through potential strategies. Before Sonia could initiate an evasive maneuver, a sudden eruption of plasma storm disrupted the Alliance dreadnought's advance. Energy readings spiked wildly as tiny specks darted back and forth amidst the tumultuous flux. In a startling twist of fate, silence engulfed the void as one of the dreadnought's giant cannons disintegrated, its plasma containment failing catastrophically. Secondary explosions rippled along its hull, tearing the colossal vessel apart in a spectacular display of destruction. "The plasma storm, it's bought us time," Stephen murmured, exchanging a stunned glance with Sonia. Their tactical advantage had been unexpectedly bolstered by the chaos among the Alliance ranks. But there was no time to dwell on fortune. The second dreadnought, caught in the throes of structural failure, succumbed rapidly to the overload of its systems. Another devastating explosion rocked the battlefield, scattering debris across the expanse of space. "We have an opportunity," Stephen declared, his voice carrying a blend of urgency and determination. "All remaining fighters, launch. Target their command ship. Now's our chance to strike." Sonia swiftly relayed the command, and the Icarus surged into action. From its launch bays, fighters streaked forth, converging on the Alliance command ship now vulnerable without the protection of its dreadnought guardians. The chaos that had momentarily gripped the Alliance fleet had provided a window for humanity to seize control of the battlefield decisively. As the human and Alliance forces clashed amidst the remnants of exploding debris, the outcome of their confrontation hung in the balance. Stephen knew that the next moves would determine not only the immediate outcome of the battle, but also the future of interstellar relations between their civilizations. As the crew of the Icarus maintained their defensive posture, Lieutenant Jane's ship, the U.S. Innovator, approached with caution. The sleek advanced vessel and its escort of Delta fighters held an air of mystery and capability that intrigued Captain Stephen and his crew. "Prepare to receive the lieutenant aboard," Stephen ordered, gesturing for Sonia to initiate docking procedures, "and be on alert for any unforeseen developments." Within moments, Lieutenant Jane's ship docked with the Icarus, and a small boarding party was assembled to greet their unexpected guest. As the airlock hissed open, Lieutenant Jane stepped aboard, her presence commanding yet composed. "Welcome aboard the Icarus, Lieutenant," Stephen greeted, extending his hand in a gesture of welcome. "I'm Captain Stephen. Please, enlighten us on how your ship's new systems can aid in resolving this misunderstanding." Lieutenant Jane nodded, her expression serious yet determined. "Thank you, Captain Stephen," she replied, her voice carrying a tone of reassurance. "Our ship's advanced sensor and communication systems have detected a pattern in the Alliance fleet's movements. It appears they were responding to a perceived threat in this sector, likely due to a misunderstanding or miscommunication." Stephen listened intently, intrigued by the lieutenant's assessment. "And how do you propose we proceed from here?" "I believe we can establish a direct communication link with the Alliance command," Lieutenant Jane suggested, her gaze steady. "By sharing our data and intentions, we may be able to de-escalate tensions and find a peaceful resolution." Stephen considered her proposal carefully, weighing the risks and potential benefits. "Very well, Lieutenant Jane. Let's proceed with your plan," he agreed, signaling for Sonia to facilitate the communication link. As the transmission was established, Lieutenant Jane conveyed their intentions to the Alliance command, emphasizing cooperation and a shared desire for peace. The tense atmosphere gradually eased as both sides exchanged information and clarified their respective positions. After a series of tense negotiations and reassurances, an agreement was reached to stand down weapons and initiate diplomatic talks to address the initial misunderstanding. The Alliance acknowledged the advanced capabilities of the U.S. Innovator and expressed interest in further diplomatic exchanges with humanity. As the dust settled and the remnants of the battle drifted silently in space, Captain Stephen reflected on the events that had unfolded. The encounter had tested their resolve and diplomacy, but ultimately, through innovation and willingness to communicate, they had averted a full-scale conflict. "Thank you, Lieutenant Jane," Stephen said sincerely, extending his hand once more. "Your initiative and your ship's capabilities have proven invaluable today." Lieutenant Jane nodded graciously, a small smile touching her lips. "It was a team effort, Captain Stephen. I'm glad we could assist in resolving this peacefully." With the Alliance fleet withdrawing and tensions diffused, the Icarus and the U.S. Innovator stood as symbols of cooperation and diplomacy in the vast expanse of the galaxy. Lieutenant Jane descended the shuttle ramp with a confident stride, her youthful appearance belying the seriousness of their situation. Captain Stephen greeted her warmly in the Icarus's shuttle bay, intrigued by the promise of the Innovator's advanced capabilities. "Welcome aboard, Lieutenant," Stephen said, extending his hand in a gesture of welcome. "I'm eager to hear more about the Innovator and its unique capabilities." "Pleasure to meet you, Captain," Lieutenant Jane replied respectfully, shaking his hand firmly. "I've reviewed the sensor logs, and it seems both our species have had a bit of a misunderstanding here." Stephen nodded, acknowledging the diplomatic understatement. "Indeed, but it seems we're on a path to understanding now, thanks to your initiative. The Innovator is a prototype of our fleet's new Shock-class ship," Jane continued, her tone becoming more animated as she discussed her vessel's capabilities. "Its phased quantum lances can target individual atoms to non-lethally disable almost any vessel, as you witnessed." Stephen's eyebrows raised with genuine interest. "Quantum technology? Impressive," he remarked, his mind already considering the strategic implications. "Non-lethal disabling is quite a feat. It's certainly a game-changer in conflict resolution." Lieutenant Jane smiled faintly, clearly proud of her ship's advancements. "We believe in using technology to de-escalate conflicts whenever possible," she explained. "The Innovator represents our commitment to peaceful interactions and cooperative efforts." Stephen nodded thoughtfully, impressed by the lieutenant's dedication and the technological marvel she described. "I can see that," he agreed, his voice reflecting a mix of admiration and cautious optimism. "We could use more allies with such capabilities?" "As long as we understand each other's intentions," Jane replied earnestly, her expression serious. "I'm here to ensure that this encounter sets a positive precedent for future interactions between our civilizations." Stephen smiled warmly, reassured by Jane's words. "That's a sentiment I can wholeheartedly support," he replied. "Welcome to the Icarus, Lieutenant Jane. Let's work together to ensure this first contact sets the stage for a prosperous future." With a renewed sense of cooperation and understanding, Captain Stephen and Lieutenant Jane embarked on a journey to forge a new chapter in interstellar relations. As the Icarus and the Innovator stood side by side in the shuttle bay, their alliance symbolized hope for a peaceful and prosperous future amidst the vast expanse of the galaxy. The journey to the bridge was filled with a sense of purpose and urgency. Lieutenant Jane led the way with an air of determination, her steps echoing confidence in her mission to broker a ceasefire and initiate diplomatic negotiations. As they walked through the corridors of the Icarus, Stephen couldn't help but notice the controlled chaos around them. Engineering crews hurriedly assessed the damage sustained during the brief but intense battle. The captain silently hoped that Jane's efforts would indeed prevent further escalation and pave the way for a peaceful resolution. Arriving on the bridge, Stephen and Jane were met with a focused atmosphere. Crew members worked diligently at their stations, monitoring systems and coordinating repairs. Sonia approached them, her expression a mix of relief and readiness. "Captain, Lieutenant," Sonia greeted, acknowledging their arrival. "We've established a communication link with Commander Goris's flagship. They're awaiting your instructions." Stephen nodded, his gaze turning to Jane. "Lieutenant, proceed with opening the channel. Let's see if we can secure a ceasefire and begin discussions on a peaceful resolution." Jane nodded in response, her fingers flying over the console as she initiated the communication protocols. Soon, Commander Goris's image materialized on the view screen, his demeanor cautious but open to dialogue. "Commander Goris," Stephen began, his tone measured yet diplomatic. "This is Captain Stephen of the United Earth Fleet. I believe we've had a misunderstanding here, and I propose we cease hostilities to discuss a resolution." Gorich regarded them with a steady gaze, his posture reflecting the weight of their encounter. "Captain Stephen, Lieutenant Jane," he acknowledged, his voice echoing through the bridge. "Your actions have spoken volumes today. We are willing to discuss terms of a ceasefire." Jane stepped in smoothly, her voice clear and resolute. "Commander Gorich, the U.S. innovator represents a new approach, a peaceful option to de-escalate conflicts," she explained, her words carrying sincerity and purpose. "Let us come together to find common ground and ensure the safety and prosperity of both our peoples." For a moment, silence hung in the air as both sides contemplated the possibilities ahead. Finally, Gorich nodded in agreement. "Very well, Lieutenant Jane," he conceded, a hint of respect in his voice. "Let us arrange a ceasefire and convene for negotiations. Perhaps there is much we can learn from each other." As the communication ended and preparations for a ceasefire began, Stephen felt a surge of optimism. Jane's unwavering commitment to diplomacy had indeed made a difference. Together they had taken the first step toward a new era of cooperation and understanding between humanity and the Cryan Alliance. "Thank you, Lieutenant," Stephen said sincerely, turning to Jane with a grateful smile. "Your dedication and leadership have brought us closer to peace today." Jane returned his smile, her eyes reflecting a sense of relief and accomplishment. "It's what the innovator was designed for, Captain," she replied humbly. "To bridge gaps and forge alliances." As they stood on the bridge of the Icarus, united in purpose and hope for the future, Stephen knew that their encounter with the Cryan Alliance would be remembered not for conflict, but for the possibilities it had unlocked for both their civilizations. Humanity and the Cryan Alliance stood at a pivotal moment, their futures hanging in the balance as Commander Gorich waited aboard the Alliance command ship Valiant. The tension in the air was palpable, tempered only by the flickering anticipation on the main monitor as it resolved into the image of Captain Stephen aboard his cruiser, accompanied by Lieutenant Jane, a figure of unexpected significance. Commander Gorich's gaze narrowed as he studied Lieutenant Jane, her presence and confidence piquing his curiosity. Her request for parley, promising answers, hinted at a deeper narrative unfolding between their civilizations. Gorich, seasoned by years of command and conflict, recognized the potential in this encounter, a moment that could steer their course towards either understanding or confrontation. "I am Commander Gorich, Supreme Commander of the Galactic Alliance Fleet," he declared, his voice resonating with authority and suspicion. "You disrupted our engagement with an unknown weapon. Care to introduce yourself, Lieutenant Jane?" Jane met Gorich's gaze with unwavering composure, her demeanor reflecting a blend of respect and resolve. "Commander Gorich," she began respectfully, "I am Lieutenant Jane of the U.S. Innovator. I understand your concerns, and I assure you our intentions were not hostile. We seek only peaceful relations and wish to discuss the events that have unfolded here today." Gorich's expression remained guarded, his mind assessing the implications of Jane's words against the backdrop of their recent skirmish. The unexpected capabilities of the human vessel had caught the Alliance off guard, an anomaly that demanded scrutiny and caution. "You possess technology far beyond what we expected from a newly encountered species," Gorich observed, his tone probing yet measured. "Explain how this is possible." Jane maintained her composure, her response measured and confident. "Our advancements are the result of decades of cooperative effort and technological innovation," she explained. "We value diplomacy over conflict, and our mission here is to find a way to coexist harmoniously in this galaxy." Stephen, standing beside Jane, added his voice to the conversation, emphasizing their shared commitment to peace and mutual understanding. "Commander Gorich," he interjected, his tone diplomatic yet firm, "we understand the concerns our presence may have caused among the Alliance. We are committed to addressing those concerns through dialogue and cooperation." Gorich remained silent for a moment, weighing their words carefully. The fate of their fragile peace hung in the balance, dependent on the outcome of this pivotal conversation. Finally, he spoke, his voice carrying the weight of command and the hope for a peaceful resolution. "Very well, Lieutenant Jane and Captain Stephen," Gorich conceded, his decision a testament to his willingness to engage in dialogue. I am willing to hear what you have to say, but make no mistake, the Alliance will not tolerate any further acts of aggression or provocation against our territories." Stephen nodded gravely, acknowledging the seriousness of the situation. "Understood, Commander. We seek only peaceful coexistence and the prosperity of both our peoples. We hope this meeting marks the beginning of a productive relationship between our civilizations." With a single nod from Gorich, signaling agreement, the communication channel closed. Stephen and Jane exchanged a glance, a flicker of hope amidst the uncertainty that lay ahead. The fate of humanity and the Cryan Alliance now rested on the dialogue and negotiations to come a critical juncture that would determine whether they could find common ground or if bloodshed. Jane nodded calmly, her demeanor poised as she sought to bridge the gap between their civilizations. "Commander Gorich, we apologize for any damage caused. Our goal was to peacefully end hostilities without loss of life. The Innovator, my ship, utilizes a prototype quantum drive and advanced weapon systems." Gorich leaned forward, his curiosity piqued despite himself. "Quantum technology is an ambitious project for a species just achieving spaceflight. Pray tell, how does it function?" A measured discussion followed, touching on atomic manipulation and zero-point energy, enough to satisfy Gorich's scientific curiosity without delving into classified details. He found himself impressed by the innovation displayed by the humans, a rarity among the Alliance. "You raise intriguing points, Lieutenant," Gorich acknowledged. "It would seem the first contact between our species got off to an inauspicious start. Let us begin anew with more understanding and trust." He nodded decisively. "We will agree to a temporary ceasefire while our diplomats meet to discuss terms and establish relations between the Cryan Alliance and the United Earth Fleet. However, be aware that any hostile actions on your part will meet with swift and decisive response." "Understood, Commander," Captain Stephen replied earnestly. "This is a new beginning for both our peoples." Gorich cut the channel and settled back in his chair. The next few days would be crucial, but if handled with care, they could pave the way for a future of cooperation and mutual benefit. He shared Jane and Stephen's optimism, hoping their efforts would lead to lasting peace between their civilizations. Stephen and Jane exchanged meaningful glances, a silent agreement passing between them. Gorich observed their collaboration with fascination, noting the mutual respect and understanding evident in their communication. "We propose establishing a joint task force to oversee relief efforts for the Fandor colony," Stephen began, his voice steady and diplomatic. "Both our militaries will stand down during the delivery of aid. Following this, we invite your representatives to the Sol system for official diplomatic talks. There, our leadership can explore cooperation more fully." Gorich considered the proposal carefully, weighing the risks and opportunities presented. After a moment of contemplation, he nodded slowly. "Agreed. It's a sensible first step towards reconciliation." "I will dispatch medical frigates immediately," Gorich continued, his tone decisive. "Within hours, a flotilla carrying food, clean water, and medical drones will arrive in orbit of Fandor." Below them, the colonists looked on with a mix of relief and confusion as the Alliance vessels began their humanitarian operations. The scene marked the beginning of a tentative but hopeful path towards understanding and cooperation between their two civilizations. In awe, Alliance crews joined forces with human volunteers under Jane's expert guidance to establish shelters and treatment centers. They diligently repaired the damaged yet stable colonist generators over the course of a week. A week later, the Valiant emerged from Slipstream Drive on the outskirts of the Sol system, flanked by Earth's cruisers. They navigated through the asteroid belt, encircling Earth's inner system to reach McKinley Station, a vast generational colony. There, the first carry-on envoys were warmly welcomed. Amid the observation domes of McKinley Station, Alliance and human crews mingled, exchanging pleasantries while eagerly studying each other's biology and technologies. Gorich, provided with private quarters and facilities to acclimate, prepared for the next day's pivotal event. Accompanied by Stephen and Jane, Gorich navigated through gleaming corridors to attend a meeting of the United Nations Security Council. There, he was formally introduced to ambassadors representing every inhabited continent of Earth and its orbital stations. Colony leaders, entrusted with the fate of billions, convened under the leadership of Secretary General Marcos. "We come in peace and with respect, seeking friendship between our species," Gorish stated formally. Over the following days, Gorish embarked on a tour of major cities, blending into marketplaces and parks alongside curious humans engaged in their daily lives. Everywhere he ventured, he encountered vibrant expressions of art, cutting-edge advancements in science, and the dynamic evolution of social norms. It became evident that these people held vast potential to contribute to the exploration and expansion of the stars if only they were given the opportunity.